Welcome to This Week in Divorce on the Divorce News Network with your host, Scott Cahill.
Hi, and welcome to This Week in Divorce News. I'm Scott Cahill. Today we take a look at some startling new numbers regarding the divorce rates in California. Indeed, California does have one of the highest divorce rates in the nation, and as one of the premier sources of divorce news and divorce information, this week we're going to take a deeper look into California's divorce crisis. Joining me right now is Candace Luo with a special report about the soaring divorce rates in California. Candace, can you hear me?
Hi, Scott. I can hear you. It's just a little unclear.
Okay, well, fantastic. I'll try to do my part to help you out a little bit. Candace, California has always been known as one of the leading states for divorce and high divorce rates. But some of these new numbers are showing numbers maybe far worse than anybody anticipated. What did you have for us in that?
That's right, Scott. You know what's really shocking? A couple of colleagues and I were talking about it before the show, doing some research on California divorce, and we found out that the California divorce rate right now has raised to a staggering 75%.
Wow, that is amazing. I know most people think 50% is the most widely reported number as far as a nation basis goes, but 75% divorce rate in California. Now, we get asked questions all the time here at This Week in Divorce News about specific laws regarding California divorce. Let me ask you just this. What are some of the specifics that people looking to file for divorce in California, what are some things that they should know?
Well, one of the first things they should know is if they are qualified to even get divorced in California. So in the state of California, there is a myth that both spouses need to reside in California in order to be able to file for divorce in California. However, this is not true. The California divorce law, only the spouse seeking to file for divorce must be a resident of California, and they must have been a resident for at least 6 months. After the divorce is filed, California divorce law also requires the couple to wait 6 months in order for the marriage to be fully dissolved.
Okay, well, I know from some of the other divorce reports that I've done here on Divorce News Network that seems to be fairly typical for the United States as far as residency requirements go. What other type of information is needed to file for divorce in California?
Well, there are two reasons for divorcing in California, which is fault and no-fault divorce.
Okay, and for our listeners, what are the differences between the two?
Well, the most common reason for divorce is no-fault divorce, which is usually filed as irreconcilable differences. And there's also fault divorce, which is usually filed when a spouse is considered legally insane. So these legally insane spouses must go through extensive testing to prove that they are unable to make full legal and logical decisions on their own due to most likely health conditions. And however, spouses who are legally insane are not exempted from their legal obligations such as child support and or spousal support.
Gotcha. Well, I suppose if you asked some of the other people around the country about California, they'd probably think that we're almost all insane. So a little side note for you there. Now, I know the larger question here, too, for those looking to file California divorce forms is what determines child custody?
Well, for child custody in California, it's all determined on the basis of the best interest of the child. So like we saw in the Tomcat divorce, there was a huge custody battle for Surrey, and, Katie was in primary custody, but with Tom always being on the road and everything, she was granted primary custody for the best interest of Surrey because Katie Holmes would most likely be the most stable parent of the two. And especially when the children in the divorce are minors. California court will do whatever it takes to help lessen the emotional trauma on the children. So if the parents cannot reach an agreement with regards to the issues in which the children are involved, the court will must determine who gets custody at the end. So luckily for Tomcat, they were able to decide on, Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes were able to decide on their own who is going to receive primary custody. However, that is not always the case.
Gotcha. And once again, that kind of makes sense. If both parents can mutually agree on custody, there's really no need for any type of court intervention. Unfortunately, as we've seen for those filing California divorce papers, that sadly is more often not the case. Hey, we do need to take just a quick break for a commercial from our sponsors here, but we'll be right back to talk more about California divorce forms.
Are you looking to get a divorce but don't have the money to spend on legal fees? For a decade, MyDivorcePapers.com has helped people get their uncontested, no-fault divorces quickly, affordably, and easily. Our forms are 100% guaranteed, come with instructions, and are available instantly through download or shipped to your address. Just create an account, answer the questions, and file the documents. Visit us at www.mydivorcepapers.com today and get started.
All right, we are back with This Week in Divorce News and our special report on the California divorce crisis. It's funny that you mentioned Katie Holmes and Tom Cruise, Candace, because I know one of the many questions people have about divorce in California is, how is property distribution typically handled and arranged?
That's a great question, Scott. So California is known as a community property state, which means California law divides all property accumulated during the course of the marriage in a 50-50 split if the spouses are not able to come into agreement.
Okay. And that kind of brings us to issues of spousal support. We know that most people generally assume that California laws regarding spousal support are very generous. Are California divorce laws regarding spousal support far more substantial than other states?
Spousal support is actually handled by case-by-case basis. So spousal support can be temporary, permanent, or not awarded at all. So although there are no set rules for spousal support, the court does follow a rough guideline, which is the ability to maintain the standard of living during the marriage, the needs of each spouse, the length of the marriage, health of each spouse, and criminal history, just to name a few.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. And, finally, when we talk about filing divorce forms in California, almost every court battle and divorce battle royale generally comes down to child support issues. So what are some of the most important things people need to know regarding California's child support laws?
The most common type of support sought after is child support. The California child support guidelines are based off the income shares model. So this model determines the amount of monthly support determined and how it's distributed in a fair proportion according to the income of each parent. Then the two support amounts are used to establish which parents will pay the other parent for the child support.
Gotcha. Very, very interesting there. And just to reiterate to our listeners out here, a new study shows California, you said, Candace, it was a 75% the divorce rate in California?
Yeah, that's correct. The rate has steadily risen. It was probably 50% a couple years ago, but now it has risen to 75%, which is one of the highest rates in the United States right now.
Wow. 3 out of 4 marriages in California end in divorce. A shocking statistic. And we'll keep an eye on this and keep our finger on the pulse of this story as it develops. Once again, 3 out of 4 California marriages do end in divorce. Candace, thank you so much for your report on the California divorce crisis. And that's just about all the time we have. So for This Week in Divorce News, this is Scott Cahill saying so long.
Thank you for listening to another show on This Week in Divorce on Blog Talk Radio. Tune in next week for more informative, intelligent, and interesting news on divorce and the world it entertains. Be sure to visit us online at www.divorcenewsnetwork.tv. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest breaking news and more great stories about divorce.